Hello and welcome to 2025's energetic forecast for business. So every year I do one of these videos looking at the energetic themes that we're going to be experiencing, how this is going to impact your client base, what it means for you as an entrepreneur, and how to prepare your business. So there are going to be some strong themes running through 2025, and I'm going to highlight those now and then go through the implications of these themes in more depth so that you have an idea of how to prepare and plan for your own development and also for your business's development. So the first and strongest theme is definitely the rise of the self, rise of identity and responsibility and inner compass. So that's going to be a very profound shift that is happening in the collective. And there's going to be this desire to move through change and a readiness to do that. But we're still going to be kind of tethered to some old energies, and that's going to mean that progress is slower. So there's going to be some restlessness to be through the other side of the change, which is going to have some implications for how people respond and react. But it's definitely a year for doing the deep work to understand how the inner self becomes expressed in the outer world, and a year of realization and coming to terms with your own truth and what that means for you. And of course, there's going to be some frustration, particularly when there's a lack of movement and because people are attached to old energies and they're not entirely sure how to move forward. So there's definitely going to be some frustration that comes up. So let's put this into context. 2025 is a 9-year numerologically, which signifies the end of cycles. So there's a lot of release of old energies and the brewing of new energies in a 9-year cycle. And it shows you how to embrace the new by letting go. So if you try to hold on to the old, that's when resistance and frustration tend to surge, because when you've got new energy moving in, old energy has to move out. And I think that the new energy is going to be feeling really, really strong. And of course, astrologically, we'll be coming to terms with Pluto moving into Aquarius. There are also major planetary transits that are going to happen in quite a short period of time in the early parts of 2025. And that's going to really shine a light on the changes that we need to make in different areas of our lives and how we make them. So there's going to be a lot of inner work happening. And the collective journey through the elemental cycle is shifting. We've spent a long time in water where we come to terms with our identity, and we've spent a relatively short period of time in the earth energies, drawing in some energies of creation. Now, in 2025, we are emerging from this earth energy and we're moving into a more expansive and expanding energy. And the pull into that energy is going to feel really strong, and it's also going to feel slightly hurried, certainly in the early parts of the year. But I do think that the pace of this year is going to feel quite different to what we've been used to in recent times. And of course, we're in the middle of a cycle. And as with all cycles, when you have unfinished business and loose ends, they're going to keep coming up and making themselves known until we work out how to deal with them. And of course, that's going to build some frustration, anxiety, and maybe even some anger. So the more heightened you can make yourself awareness of the patterns, it's going to really, really help you through the year. So the way I do this is that I lean into the rhythm of the energetic points and where they fall on the elemental cycle, and then lean in to understand that within the context of the collective energies. So there are 7 points that are going to come up within the energy of the year, and they're like the transition points. And I think it's important to note that your personal transition through these energies is not necessarily going to be at the same pace as the collective transition. You might be ahead or you might be behind. That's all absolutely fine, because we're all going to be experiencing it in different ways. The more aware you are of those key points, the more you'll be able to see where you're at. So the first point of energy comes when, it's opened fully on 11/11/2024. And that is this emerging air energy, and it's transitioning out of earth energy. And at this point, you have hope and trepidation at unequal measure. And those with a very strong sense of self-belief are going to come out on the side of conviction and hope. But many will feel the need to hold back and because that trepidation is going to be quite strong. So that's the first point. The second point comes just before the full opening of air energy, and that's where your vision and belief in your path are really, really strong, but it's not grounded, especially not grounded in the self. So the aspirations are there, but the path forward isn't quite clear yet. And then the third point comes when fire is beginning to influence air energy, and that's where the realization lands that change comes from within, and you have an ability to act upon that. And there's a certain level of responsibility that comes with that. So this self-identity as an agent of change is a key turning point. And the fourth point comes just before the full energy of opening of fire energy. And this is where identity, very specifically the desire to be an identity, is birthed and forged. It's like a stepping off point. It really is the moment of no return, the leap into the fire, confronting a fiery dragon, that sort of feeling to it. And the transition between these points is going to be relatively rapid, or it's going to feel relatively rapid perhaps. If you're attuned to the shifts that are happening, you're going to be able to move through it more easily. And in fact, you may even be through these key points before 2025 actually begins. But the fifth point comes at the close of fire's energy and the opening of water's energy. And this is the point where you are able to see the full landscape before you, and where the scope of change and possibility opens up to you. And I think this is where the responsibility, the sense of responsibility, will really land for many people. Everything that's happened before and everything that it's opened up is going to become visible to you. So it will be a point where you may have to go, I made the right choices, I'm on the right path. The sixth point then comes when earth energy begins to take over. And that point is when everything is being solidified and cemented. And that's the purpose of that energy, is like committing to a different path, a different future. And it's a real gateway point. And then the seventh point comes exactly on the full energy of earth, where the resources, physical and energetic, are pulled together to turn what's been brewing into form. It's the outward expression of what's been going on in your inner world. I get the feeling that some people may have an extended stay here. And the reason for that is that there would be needing to do quite a lot of gathering of resources in order for that to happen. But equally, there may be a need for a lot of patience, and the patience is going to be in short supply during the year, because people are going to be wanting to move through this change. So it might not necessarily be a very comfortable space for some to make the space and have the patience to do the work that is necessary for everything to come into form. And I do think that impatience will be a very strong inclination. So the rhythm of these points is that it begins quite quickly and then begins to slow down. And so that there is a sense of speed and haste before more breathing space comes in, whereas we work out how to be. And the majority of the year really will be spent on this, working out how to be and working out what does that change mean, and how is that being experienced, being asked to be experienced through behavioral and identity shifts. And we're going to need some reflective periods of growth as well. So opportunities to slow down, listen to ourselves, rebalance and recalibrate. But everything that's going to influence this period is already on the table. The coming year is actually just focused on working out what this means and how to live in attunement with it. It's definitely a year of enactment and embodiment, and practically that means reevaluation, capacity building, capability building as well. So the energy completes with this commitment to living and working in a different way. And although the initial part of the flow, I suspect, will feel quite scary to some, where people feel lost because it's new. But those, of course, who revel in the new are going to find it really exciting, and those who don't are going to feel uncomfortable. If you want to get a feel for how you're likely to react to all of this, then you can do that by taking my quiz on elemental energies, working out which is the element that guides your creative expression, because that's going to show you how you're going to respond to these energies, and particularly where you're going to find the deepest level of comfort with them and where you're going to find it uncomfortable. And I'll link that in below the video so you can go and quickly take that quiz. So there are some collective themes emerging with this energy. The first is restlessness. And what I think is going to happen with this feeling of restlessness is a lot of people taking some very hasty actions that aren't actually aligned, particularly in those early phases of energy. People are going to feel rushed and unable to take a breath and connect with their center. So we'll probably see people jumping the gun because there's this tension in the energies, and that will calm down as the year progresses. But there's this rise of the self, this individual power and responsibility. It's going to get a very sharp focus in the coming year. So what I can already feel happening is this sense of a surge of inner authority. After that surge of inner authority comes this sense of responsibility, of responding to the inner calling. So it's both a recognition of it, but then it becomes a reckoning of what does it take to listen to your inner voice, and what does it take to respond to that inner power. So people begin to work out what that is. They're going to be working on accepting it and working out what it means for them. And for some people, that's going to feel like a weight, and other people, it's going to feel like a freedom. We have to remember that the light's within us. It's part of us. And that brings with it hope and responsibility. And that's not always an easy thing to bear. For some people, it feels very lightweight. For other people, it feels like a burden. So it's going to be a year of realization, difficult work of coming to terms with honoring your own truth. It's going to be uncomfortable, but there will also be a sense of acceptance that the path is just there to be traveled. And the energy feels quiet. It's not upbeat. It's not hopeful as such, but it's not pessimistic. It's not downbeat, because the focus is on our own power and responsibility. But of course, that focus will be turned in. So it's likely to stay there or boil over into unpredictable behavior. Inner conflict resolution is a phrase that keeps coming up, and I think that'll be a big focus for the coming year. But obviously, when we have big energetic shifts, there's an inclination to pull back. So there's retrenching. And there will be a lot of fear of the unknown, especially the unknown aspects of self that are yet to be tested. And because retrenching into old patterns isn't going to work, a lot of people may actually freak out and panic that they don't know what to do next or how to move forward. So the early part of the year is pointing towards a lot of internal and external instability. So if you're further through the changes, you're going to understand what's happening, you're going to be able to move forward through them, but others are going to need support to believe in themselves and to follow that path that they feel is in front of them. So that's going to spill over into your client and customer behavior. Expect to see some impulse reactions and buying in the early parts before that calms down. In the latter part of the year, clients and customers are likely to be more reserved and reflective. There will be a heightened tension and a sense of frustration that spills over into their experiences of meeting their needs. They're going to feel new priorities emerging for themselves, but they're also going to be battling the urge to lean away from those because it's scary. They might fear that they're going to be rejected, or they might worry about their ability to meet their needs if they follow that inner calling. That's a very different thing. We're so focused on how we do things to be within the norms, that to listen to a different voice, to listen to a different sense of authority, means that we are working in a completely different way. We're following different clues and cues, and we're following that inner voice. So it's a difficult thing to learn to navigate. That said, the feeling that it must be navigated isn't going to recede. Those needs need to be met, and the remainder of the year is going to be spent on readjusting to that and working out what that means. So in a 9-year, there's lots of letting go to be done because there's a lot of new energy building. So doubtless we're going to see confusion, disorientation, hesitation, influencing behavior, and an overall sense of well-being. So the more reassurance that you can offer and provide a real sense of calm, the more you will be able to lead and guide your clients and customers forward through their path. Now, in the last couple of years, I've talked about how we've been on individual timelines, which means we have different perspectives about the state of community and the state of the planet. And that's led to very different lived experiences and interpretations. What's interesting is that in the coming year, those timelines are going to begin to converge again, and those who are moving at a faster pace are going to have a role to play in holding the timeline open for those who are coming behind them, lighting that path from within, if you like. So being very clear about your own path, your own purpose, your own role, and where your inner voice is taking you, so that you are actually that light for other people. And those timelines are going to begin to converge. So you are going to be experiencing these energies, but you're also going to be guiding other people through them, because that's your job as an entrepreneur. I suspect as an entrepreneur, you're going to feel the need to evolve your work quite rapidly, make some significant shifts in your focus within your work and your business. Generally, you're going to find yourself in a more fluid space than you might feel used to. So you need to be aware of your capacity: physical, energetic, emotional, mental, in order to be able to track your capacity and consciously build it in response to your own growth. But you also may need to work on your capability in terms of learning some new skills or honing your existing ones further. So get to understand your own support needs, both within your work and outside of your work, as you navigate this, to really help yourself. And prepare your plan in a way that maintains your freedom to respond to what comes up, while also giving you something to really work towards and structure the way that you're working in your business. And will help you, that structure will help you to move through the early energies where it's going to feel quite chaotic, get into the more stable energies that come after. And like I said, you might get into those stable energies quite quickly while the collective is still reeling in this much more chaotic energy and this instability. So I do think that you may well be through this before the beginning of 2025, but it's worth being aware of the destabilizing influence of all of this and how it makes you feel about your role as an entrepreneur and your business as a whole. And the self and energetic awareness will help you work out what you need best to support yourself, and the actions you can take and where you're heading. So this emergence energy is going to create new openings, which you're going to want to respond to. You're going to need to respond to them as well. And I would just say lean into those energies. There's new energy moving in that is going to encourage you to branch out. And it will help you to, if you lean into those energies, it's going to help you, especially the opportunities that it creates, are going to help you work out what to let go or deprioritize. But do be prepared to be honest about your experience of all this, because I think sharing your lived experience with your community of navigating these transitions is going to help to reassure them, and it's going to help them to find their inner strength to make the changes that they feel called to make. And that's going to help them to move forward on their path. And that's what you're here for. You're here to help them move forward on their path in whatever way that you are offering to them. But do model calm leadership and live through your values. That's going to help to inspire others to find their own calm centeredness, and that's going to be very much needed. So what about your business? Your business is an expression of your soul, and it's an expression of your soul work that's going to be experiencing these shifts too. So be prepared for change, and lots of transition in this year, alongside some completely new, unexpected directions of expression. It's going to be very important to provide that structure. And I think some of the things that you can do to help create that structure are things like creating a value statement for your business. You know, what's important to you and why you're working towards it. And it doesn't have to be complicated, and it doesn't have to be long. It's more that it's a touchstone for your work and for your focus. And it might be something that you want to share with your community. It might be something you just say, well, I want to hold that purely for myself. It doesn't matter how you choose to use it. but you have that as a touchstone to keep you on track. And also then review your values and how are they upheld by all areas of your business. And when I'm talking about behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. That's really important. Are all the decisions that you're making, all the actions that you're taking, are they reinforcing your values? Are you doing what you're doing in integrity with those values? Another key aspect as we are moving into the changing business dynamic is building your circles. So these are the circles of engagement, interest, and action that happen within your business by people outside of yourself. So your client circle is going to be built around your calm leadership and your transparency. Your community will be built around your values and your leadership. And your audience is going to be built around your relevance to their lived experience and their current state of being. And the other circle that is very important is your peer network. Collaboration is on the rise. So it's going to be important to you on a personal level and a professional level. It's going to be key for your business. So making some strong bonds with your peers, both professionally and personally, is going to support you. And to support your circle building, take the time now to clarify your central vision, your values, your core message. And remember that your core message is not fixed in stone. It's going to grow into new avenues of expression. But this year is about stretching into the full lessons of where you've come from and what it makes possible because you've taken that particular journey as you move into a new phase. You know, your vision presents a different reality or experience. And if you model those alternatives through your work and through your presence in your business and how they're helping to navigate the transitions of dynamics, that's going to help. It's going to get really clear. If you can get really clear on what you're working towards at its broadest level and how that filters down into your business, your work, your presence, that's going to build your potential to reach more people and build your circles, because you're going to be talking about things that are and presenting and positioning things that are very relevant to their lived experience and their interpretation of what is going on. So values key. The next thing I would say is to declutter. It's going to be a strong collective urge. And that means that whilst you might do some decluttering, you're also going to be on the receiving end of decluttering. And I think it's really important to not take that personally. This is about changing energies, changing relationships, and that's a natural consequence of that. But what you can do is you can do the obvious things like cleaning up your inbox, cleaning up your files, unsubscribing from things that you don't really pay attention to anymore or no longer feel quite as relevant, delete things that you are never going to read or action, and anything that is tying you to sort of like an old level of capacity and old relationships, which is why I also recommend clearing the energetic structures of your business. That includes old relationships with clients and coaches and suppliers. You can create some new records for the new year, archive old records. And if you want some help on how to clear the energetic structures of your business, I have linked a practice that I have below this video. Prepare yourself now to be a strong, quiet leader. This is not a year where a lot of noise is going to be helpful. People are going to need calm, quiet, assured presences around them. And that's going to support them to move forward on their path. And like I said, your job here is to help them move forward on their path in some way. So the calmer you are, the more confident you are, the more people will navigate towards you, particularly when there is a general space of instability and sense of chaos. And like I said, where there's also that panic, potentially anger, frustration, restlessness. The calmer you are, the more you will be you become a magnet for people who need that in their lives. But we're moving into new energy as well, and with new energy, we need to flex our creativity. So creative solutions are really going to support you and going to feed your business. And it's an opportunity to see beyond the veil, see beyond the chaos, and find the alternative and guide people forward. do think it's going to be important to break out of old patterns of creating, because there are alternative approaches that you can take that are going to elevate your business and position it as a creative authority. Which leads us into positioning your work. So the collective is going to be feeling out of balance. So it's important for you to present your work as a way of restoring balance, albeit it's a different state of balance to the balance they were in before. I always think of balance as being very dynamic, not static. It's a bit like learning to ride a wobble board. You're constantly adjusting your balance in order to stay upright. But you may not talk about balance because that might not fit with your message, but it doesn't mean to say you can't bring a sense of balance and bring that into your positioning. I think we'll find, especially in the early stages, a lot of talk about quantum leaping and quick solutions. I don't think that's necessarily going to be well received, because it's not what people are going to want, but not what they're going to want in the medium to long term. It might actually be well received in the shorter term because of that state of instability. So it's like, give me something really quick to get me past this point and into a more stable place. But we have to move through change. We can't bypass it with those quick solutions and quantum leaps. So what you can do here to support your business is spend time now getting really clear on the journey that you offer. I've spoken about this for the last couple of years, really, about the importance of your process of achieving transformation. That's still key. But an added dimension here is about how the process shifts states of being, and the states of being reflect lived experiences of change and the feelings that emerge, and how this impacts the way people respond in their lives. Get to understand how people are reacting and how they want to change their states of being. That's going to provide you with the insights you need to position your work. You can reflect back to your audience what their journey has been like up to this point, and how the decisions and choices they make moving forwards can transform their journey from here. And I'll link below this video my Journey to Transformation workshop, which actually looks at how do you map out these states of being, how do you map out the journey that people are on, and then make your work relevant to those states of being and their positions on the journey. So consider how your work achieves impacts that help people as individuals. We're going to be moving through this collective change, but everybody has their own experience of that, and they will be feeling this surge of individuality and inner authority. So they're going to be wanting to make individually appropriate decisions according to their new priorities. Now, luckily, your audience is going to be on pretty much the same wavelength about what those are, so you can tap into that to find your hooks and angles to position your work. But personalization is an important aspect to this. It's a word that gets used in lots of different places, and that doesn't necessarily help. So what you need to be thinking about is, what are the individual's needs and wants, and how are you meeting those? Thinking about the individual as a person. Now, that might sound incredibly obvious, but it's actually overlooked in as much as we tend to think about the individual as the ideal client avatar, as like this combination of things. That's not going to necessarily serve. Moving forward, we'll need to be thinking about perhaps individuals that we know and understanding them a bit better as sort of like perhaps markers of some of the key things that we want to be focusing on and positioning around. And you will have been told to create this unwavering central message, and that if you've got too many angles, you're going to confuse people and you're going to stop them buying. And on one level, that's true. But on another level, it's missing a trick, because diversifying how you present your message is a tool of personalization. It lets your audience see your message from multiple perspectives, and that shows them how rounded it is and how valuable it is. Because people are capable of seeing themselves from multiple perspectives. They're not in a two-dimensional state. So the more diversification you can have and personalization you can have in presenting your message, the more rounded it becomes and the more helpful it becomes to your audience. It also means that you can present balance, confidence, and hope to people, which is an important aspect of your leadership. And of course, inner conflict is going to be a big theme. So positioning your work to resolve this is going to help people to find you and trust in you. So perhaps you can dig deep into their lived experiences to find your angles and position your work as being highly relevant, valuable to what they need now. Some informal or formal market research could be just the ticket, to be honest. It could be as simple as an informal conversation that helps you gauge the current relevance of your work. And it's important not to assume that what's always been the case in terms of the relevance is going to continue. Change is going to be fast. So agile positioning is going to be absolutely essential. If you're positioning your work to offer real, lasting solutions, people are going to respond to that. Now, you are not immune from what is going to be happening in the wider business world because you have to move in that world. And with every energetic shift, there's a kickback, there's retrenching. And I think that's going to show up in the external business world that you have to function in. I think you're going to see the business dynamic changing in real time. And I want you to remember as that is happening that you're ahead of that curve. You're not in the middle of the melee in the center. So when you feel yourself sort of being slightly out of kilter, observe what's going on, reconfirm your values, focus on where you're going, keep on your path. But do expect to see some questionable practices resurging and a lot of focus on areas that used to be key pain points. But these aren't going to have the traction. So the problem is when you have no traction, instead of people going, okay, let me just regroup and reconsider, a lot of the tendencies in business is to push and squeeze more. So go after it harder. And that's not going to be well received. And not in the medium to long term, but I do think in the short term that might well be quite well received, and that's going to throw people off. But this, because the pain points won't be the same, the positioning is going to be off. So I suspect there's going to be some panicking, and that's going to lead to panicked messaging. And the best advice I can give you is to write it out, to keep calm, to keep quiet, keep centered. It's not going to offer people what they need, so it's going to make it very short term. So just take a deep breath when you're seeing something that you wish you weren't. Ignore it. You know, people like to skip through the messy stuff, and I would anticipate a lot of focus on quantum leaping, quick solutions that are not going to support people in the long term. But I do think as we move through the year, people are going to get less interested in social media. So now is a good chance for you to diversify your presence onto other platforms or other media. And that's going to benefit you in the long run because it's going to diversify the ways in which you connect with people and offer them different ways to engage with you on their own terms. So change is happening. It's already in motion. It's going to be fought, but you know, the path's there. And as an entrepreneur, you're going to be moving through a changing landscape. And you have a choice to respond and react to those changes or to create them. And creativity and creation are going to bring more growth and stability. There's a lot of boredom with the old approaches, and it's been evident throughout 2024. Fresh new approaches are being actively sought that genuinely reflect how people feel. So you don't need to feel limited by your business options. This year, you can really surge forward by giving yourself permission to break some rules, imagine some alternatives, put them into motion. That's going to support you and it's going to support your business. And it doesn't matter that you don't know what you're doing. You're going to find out by trying. You will discover what you're capable of by putting it into action. And of course, there's going to be some failures, but they're learning opportunities. You learn what you can do by trying what calls you. And so if you give it all, your all, and you will find your path. And it will be a year of considerable expansion for you. I hope also considerable enjoyment and fun in your business, because business should be fun. If it's a soul calling, then it should be fun to be exploring where that's taking you. So there's lots going on, but I have total faith that you have your center and you know how to navigate your path. I've put some resources below this video to help you to dig into any areas that you think, yep, that's the thing that I need to focus on the most in the coming year. So I've put some resources down there. But if you want to go even deeper and you want to talk about what support you need, then please do get in touch. You can get in touch with me through my website, which is also linked below. But also to say, as a complement to this video, I've run a series of workshops looking at the health of your business in the coming year, but also how to put that into a strategy that accommodates all of the things that I've been talking about in this video. And I've linked those below as well, which you can now access and get. Other than that, I hope that you have a wonderful 2025 and you come out on the side of hope and curiosity and enjoyment through this process, and just have a bit of a blast. Until next time, take care.